So, what are we doing? So today I wanted to talk about a lot of the current news surrounding Black Ops 7 and even Black Ops 6 and do another one of those community catch-ups with one of the biggest topics being,
oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Now this is apparently a semi-hot topic within the larger COD community, but specifically a really hot topic within the zombies community. And I'm going to say that I personally think that carry forward for weapons and most operator skins should not be in zombies. I think having all these guns carry forward is a terrible idea. The mystery box is already worthless as hell as is with a ton of bloat, so adding even more bloat to the mystery box with all these frankly bland and boring ass guns is an awful idea. And while we're talking about the guns, I gotta say, just like what I said in the review, I absolutely hate the guns that are in BO6. There are only a few ones I actually like 3 of them, but the rest absolutely not. And I've seen these posts about people whining about the Olympia or the PPSH not being in BO7 zombies, and my response is, why the fuck should I care? Like, the PPSH has been neutered more and more over the years. Why would I want this shitty version of the PPSH in Black Ops 7? One argument I've heard a lot is how apparently pro-consumer this decision is, and I still disagree. One of the biggest selling points of not just COD but any shooter is the guns. So when you ask them to carry forward all of the guns from BO6, you are actively asking Treyarch to make the game you paid for less valuable. But somehow not carrying these forward is construed to be anti-consumer. I don't get it. And then you have the people who try to make the claim that them carrying these guns forward somehow is a guarantee we won't get them recycled, as if the seasonal plans aren't made before the game even comes out, which they are. I mean, seriously, why have the plans be to carry the guns forward if they were planning on recycling them in seasonal updates? So very clearly, recycled BO6 guns just aren't in the plans to begin with. So I don't understand the community's desire for these mid-ass guns to all be ported into the next game. As for the cosmetics, also a clear W. Season 1 launching with some of the most disgusting skins I've ever seen in a COD game is a bad idea. I know the Easter egg reward skins are carrying over, and I think that's a really good idea, but outside of that and maybe the ray gun skins, I don't want anything else carrying forward. Let BO6 have some kind of identity, even if it's a mediocre one. Anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is the abysmal. The marketing this year for Black Ops 7 Zombies is absolutely horrendous. Like, I don't understand why Treyarch thought trying to hide shit from us was a good idea. Like, you guys promised this Zombies week full of reveals, and then secretly delay it to the point where we had to call you out on it. Then you release a statement saying it's the week after. Then this week comes out, and we get some teasers that kind of just mean fuck all, and then a trailer and a blog post that really only showed us the new villain, which low-key looks really cool, a zombie bear, this denizen looking thing, and this other denizen looking thing, and then this cool looking pyramid. Amazing. And then you reveal in the blog post that the actual reveals are coming next week. So thanks, Treyarch, for delaying your Zombies week again. Like, it just feels like a merry-go-round with these delays. It's absolutely terrible. Like, it's really reading like the studio is in full panic mode after being completely ratioed and getting some actual competition. Maybe we'll see some actually good systems changes. Who would have thought that was a good idea? And I gotta say, it's complete bullshit that Milo can't talk about the game you flew him out to play. Like, he just got to play a survival map. Why can't he talk about his experience with that? And if he didn't like what he played, maybe just listen to the community that you want buying your game. You guys can't act like you want to listen to all this feedback and then actively silence feedback from somebody. And from the sound of his live stream, it doesn't really seem like he's looking forward to this game anyway. Like, it just really sucks because I can tell Treyarch is trying their ass off when it comes to the map. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that this map will be good. But what I can say is that if it's just BO6 mechanics with barely any changes, then I'm not really gonna be excited for that. I mean, you guys were so close with Vanguard, and I mean that. These were actually pretty good systems changes, and they work so well in round-based. Obviously, we're not gonna talk about Duran Stinky, but like, the round-to-round Shino Numo Reborn gameplay is actually really fun. It's more fun than any of the modern games, and that's for sure. And I actually use my brain, and I actually use the box. Like, who would have thought of an actual useful mystery box in modern zombies? Obviously, it's not perfect. BO4 and classic zombies obviously have better systems, but out of all the modern games, Vanguard honestly got the closest to what I want for the mode. Like, I just don't understand why out of everything, we decided to go for Cold War systems. Like, they're just stinky. I want something different, or at least the option within the game, like a classic mode, to get something different. So am I excited for Black Ops 7 Zombies? Kind of, but like not really. Am I hateful of it? No. I'm just still in that limbo state of apathy. And they need to impress me. And not just me, but most of the community. So hopefully we don't get another fucking delay because all they're doing is leaving more Battlefield 6 hype on the table to squash them. Now with that said, let's talk more about the...
We're not done! Daddy isn't done speaking! You will come back here! Daddy demands you to come back!
Now, the community is kinda in flames right now. Nobody knows what's going on. Thanks, Treyarch. And you have all of these people still spamming Battlefield 6 everywhere. It is a disaster. And that's what I mean when I say that Treyarch really needs to wow us. Because I cannot handle another BO6 reveal situation again. That was a complete nightmare. Even though I could make so much content making fun of people who don't know what they're talking about.
No, I figured we weren't gonna go that far, but at least I thought we were gonna get, like, Origins of Evil.
Fuck is Origins of Evil? The fuck even is that? It's still kind of exhausting to do that. And speaking of last year, I thought I would kind of like to course correct the narrative surrounding what I said going into BO6 pre-launch. The main kind of point I wanted to make throughout that like month or two was that everybody was pretty much overreacting. Like Zombies is completely doomed or something. And it turns out that I was right. Like the game didn't even come out yet. They had this whole list of changes they made between BO6 and Cold War, and I wanted me and everybody else to wait to fully judge it until it came out. And I was still right. Like Black Ops 6 Zombies was not bad despite my many problems with it. And it's so funny because the community that hated BO6 pre-launch the most, being the Zombies community, was the community that actually got treated the best during Black Ops 6's life cycle in comparison to how the multiplayer or Warzone communities are being treated. I don't know. I've just seen so many people try to act like I tried to get people to buy this game, or like I tried to act like BO6 was going to be some like fantastic game, when in reality I just kind of wanted to clear up a lot of the misinformation going around at the time. Like I had good intentions and I still do. I just think maybe some people either don't see that or want to see that. And I still try my best to clear up misinformation to this day. Like I was the only Zombies YouTuber who stood against everybody else trying to tell you that Ashes of the Damned was a transit remaster or remake. I was the only person who said it wasn't. And guess what? I was right. I mean, it's transit inspired for sure, but it's like how Citadel is inspired by Horizon Drac, even though they're completely different maps. I mean, I pinned my whole credibility on this just to try to get you guys to have some realistic expectations. And while we're talking about the community, I thought I would do my part and try to interact a bit more. My channel size has basically quadrupled over the past year, and so I thought I would pay it back a bit by talking about this commentary video made about me by this awesome YouTuber named Totally Not Dougie. This dude is so fucking nice in the reaction, and I was genuinely surprised, so I thought I would talk about some of the points he brought up. Like, look at these fly-ass glasses, bro. Straight fire, dude.
A multitude of reasons, but I think a video like this is really interesting and I think allows for discussion, and I think that's a great thing. Discussing issues within your favorite games is important, even if you have different opinions than others, but I think it's also important to not explode if you have different opinions.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about making these types of videos, is kind of stirring the pot a bit and trying to get that discussion or conversation out of people.
Point system is something that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 changed, and a lot of people just really didn't like that. They felt like it was a big downgrade or a lot of steps backwards compared to what we had. Personally, I think that the point system is better this way. It doesn't allow players to just hoard a bunch of points in their inventory and you can just spend it on whatever you feel like. It really incentivizes you to be smart about what you need to purchase next and just your natural progression. You know, do I want to buy a wall weapon? Do I want to buy the store? Or should I just keep investing my money, saving it up, and possibly pack a punch to the next tier or buy armor? Black Ops 6 really does a fantastic job with that. As I said, I know a lot of people have issues, but this point system, it allows me to think strategically about what I want to purchase. And I really didn't feel like that in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 because it was so easy and so simple to collect so many points and not really be punished unless I was going down constantly through bad gameplay.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, but I don't think that really has anything to do with the point system itself, rather how many points you are actually spending within your match. It's like 127,000 points. It's insane. I mean, it's actually harder to point max in the earlier games. I just think that you're kind of mixing the definition of correlation and causation, because in reality, it's just that you have to spend more points rather than what you're describing being caused by either point system.
I really like the data that he collected. Even though it's a small amount of data, it's better than no data, and it really does show, because in Black Ops 3, as you saw, there was a 2,000 point difference from his first to his third game, and then in Black Ops 6, there wasn't even like 1,000 points difference.
Yeah, this was my first time doing any like data collection. I'm not donuts, but I thought I would at least try to have some sort of evidence backing the type of claim I was making.
But as I said, I think that's fantastic, and I do understand where he's coming from because, yeah, through game to game, well, if I'm only getting the same amount of points, I'm not really going to feel that change, that difference. And who knows how he was playing in Black Ops 3, he could have been min-maxing, all that kind of stuff, which was taken away in Black Ops 6, you can't min-max.
Yeah, and to clarify, I was point maxing my ass off between both BO1 and BO6. Or point maxing as much as I can in BO6.
But within his third game of Black Ops 3, well, I have so much points and I can just do whatever I want. I feel that once you collect so much points, the game just becomes too easy and a snooze fest almost. It almost breaks natural progression in all honesty, because if you're just so loaded with points, and even if I could pack a punch as early as maybe round 8 to 12, you just become extremely overpowered, and I think that's just a bigger issue in itself, because as I said, it breaks that natural progression, and the way Black Ops 6 really forces a player and incentivizes them to either just make those decisions where, yeah, like, my options are limited, but do I buy this door or do I buy this wall weapon? It still allows for that critical thinking aspect, which is important. Are games going to feel similar? For sure. But the fact that players can't be so overpowered so early, I think is great. And I always felt like I still need to earn more points to collect something, which is something I really yearned for in Black Ops 3. I always felt like I just didn't have an issue trying to get anything. If I needed more points, okay, no problem. Let me just buy a weaker weapon, and I just completely loaded into the zombies.
Yeah, but you're also not really looking at the data difference itself. I mean, I only had like 1,000 points more in Game 3 between BO1 and BO6. Like, the amount of points earned isn't that different between either game. It's just how many points you actually have to spend between either game. And that's what's forcing you to make these kind of decisions that you're talking about.
So I guess just as a whole, to kind of sum up as like what he said, when it comes to certain maps, you might as well just pick the best gun when it comes to high rounds and the boss fight for that map, and stick with it, because there's no other reason to pick other guns. I disagree with that statement. I think the way Black Ops 6 revitalized the weapon system, the damage, all that kind of stuff is fantastic, because every gun is good in its own ways. Yes, I'm not going to choose a generic pistol that doesn't turn into the Mustang and Sally. Whatever pistols there are that don't turn into akimbo explosives. It's not going to be as effective as, say, my triple pack-a-punched LMG that I've been sticking with, or chose since the beginning of my game, that I selected for my loadout. I understand where he's coming from, but as I said, the way that the weapon system is, it does allow for replayability. I can still buy wall weapons and just rock those, because the game will naturally progress the damage of those wall weapons as well as you go through the rounds. They'll increase their tiers and all that kind of stuff. To say that I can stick with one weapon because the game doesn't really encourage you to use other weapons, I think is a false statement. But then I know the issue also comes in, well, if every weapon is great and the same in their own ways, yeah, why bother switching out? It's the diversity of players with what they want to use. You know, if I want to use a shotgun, well, I can do that, and I'm not going to be punished for it. If I want to use a sniper, I'm not going to be punished for it. Is a sniper good for high round and good for boss fights? Probably not. I'm definitely going to want to switch out for something in that scenario. Black Ops 6 really ensured that every weapon is great and powerful in their own ways. Within older games like Black Ops 3, even Black Ops 2 I think is a better example of this. And not to stray off, because I know I was going to use Black Ops 3 as the main example, but Black Ops 2, there were so many weapons that were just so unusable and very weak. Black Ops 3 had the same issue as well. Like, I wouldn't want to use the Weevil unless I had double pack-a-punch on it. The assault rifles were good, but once I got the Dingo in Black Ops 3, why bother getting anything else? The Dingo was the way to go, and it didn't slow down my movement as well. Every game had these sort of issues, but Black Ops 6 really fixed that problem because every weapon is good in their own ways. Yes, does it make it a little bit boring? For sure. But if you want to use a different weapon, you're not going to be punished for it. Not to sound repetitive when I say that, but I think just to push the stance of Black Ops 6 doesn't really incentivize or promote weapon variety. I think it's a false statement. It definitely does, and it just doesn't punish players for choosing something different because they're curious about that weapon.
Yeah, and I don't really agree with that. The wall weapons might scale with rarities, but they don't scale with pack-a-punch. And the damage boost per rarity actually isn't very significant. Most of your damage increase comes from pack-a-punch, not rarity, and pack-a-punch is super expensive, so you actually are punished, especially mid to late game, when it comes to switching to different weapons. Which is also why the mystery box is only useful in Vanguard, because there isn't rarities and it instead scales with pack-a-punch tiers. And while yeah, every weapon weapon has the capacity for good damage, that doesn't mean every weapon is necessarily good or really has a reason for me to use it. The gameplay systems are centered solely around damage, and so every gun might have good damage, but not every gun has amazing or great damage. And so if damage is that important, I'm going to stick to the few guns that have amazing damage and not really use anything else because I'm just killing things quicker without being punished for it. And that's the problem with how people look at guns in comparison to the older games, because damage wasn't the only factor. What made a gun good or important wasn't just damage. I mean, BO2 had only like one useless gun, and it was the SMR. Maybe you could make a case for the S12 as well, but the system surrounding guns had trade-offs. Like, people try to act like shotguns and snipers were completely useless because they just didn't give you as many points. But the trade-off was that they actually had really good damage. The only game where shotguns and snipers were useless was Black Ops 1. Like, the Tommy gun on paper is the most mid gun ever, but I love it because it's mid. It isn't fantastic for getting points, but it isn't fantastic at killing either. It's the definition of a mediocre gun, but it has a really strong place in the sandbox because it's mid, and it's technically good for everything. But there's not really a gun like that in BO6 or Cold War, because the systems don't really allow for something like that. Trying to say that every gun has good damage, therefore the system has more variety, I think in actuality is a false statement, because every gun for the most part is only based around one type of use, and it's damage.
Let's jump back to kind of the start of the video with his first statement. You know, the maps aren't the problem, the game is. Even after talking about all the in-game mechanics and sharing my opinions with No Name here, I still think that maps are the problem, but the game is the problem as well. I think the Tomb was really lackluster. I was disappointed, and just the re-addition or reintroduction of the ice staff, it makes me sad, because it makes me feel like Treyarch is struggling to come up with original concepts and just scared to come up with original concepts or ideas when it comes to wonder weapons or map variety, like really differentiating these new maps instead of just what they're doing now with bringing us these maps that it's like, oh, it's a familiar feeling. If you like Liberty Falls, you're really gonna like the Tomb. Citadel Daymore, I think, is fantastic, and I really like how you can get the swords. But with that being said, it's like the fact that there are so many maps now which have 4 wonder weapons, which isn't a bad thing. I really just wish that they finally released a map where it's just this long Easter egg, not even a long Easter egg, but just something a bit more challenging where you get this one grand wonder weapon in the map that makes it unique to its own. The swords are great in their own way, but it still feels like something I've seen a gajillion times since Origins has done it, and Origins, it did it right. I'm not saying that other maps did it wrong, like Der Eisendrache with the bows, but Black Ops 6, just the way that the maps are, like their personality is being lost, and it's being lost very fast.
Yeah, and so I feel like I could have done a better job presenting the main theme or points I was making in the video, which is that the gameplay systems in BO6 not only hurt the replayability of every map in the game, but they also limit what the devs can do or put within a map. Like, maybe there would be side Easter eggs surrounding equipment and just more map-specific equipment in general if the gameplay systems allowed for that, but they just don't. Like, maybe Citadel would have been a peak map with so much more to it if it was made in like BO3, for example. Like, that was the main premise of the video, so that's on me. Dougie is a great guy. I was totally expecting a more negative point of view when I first saw his reaction. He's a pretty small creator and also a hard one to find, so I'm gonna put his links in the description so you guys can go support him. I think he makes really great content, and I hope he grows even more with time. Overall, as of right now, there really isn't that much to talk about BO7 wise, and it's so sad that we have to wait a whole week for something substantial to actually talk about. And I'm not gonna pull a Mr. Dalek JD and make a whole 10-minute video on one little thing just for the sake of having a video out. I just kind of wanted to make this video as like a little catch up with you guys and my community, and the discussion around the game, and also just my channel in general. And with that said, I'd like to thank my members for supporting me and this channel. Anyway, bye.